Welcome back, everyone. Mike here with Offshore Citizen. Today I'm going to discuss the subject of how to design a company to pay zero tax, or at least the lowest legal amount of tax possible based on wherever it is that you are in the world. One of the, I think, common misconceptions out there is the idea that you cannot stay in your home country and pay low tax or no tax. Certainly there are restrictions in certain countries, that's absolutely true. And it's definitely easier to, if you can just go to Dubai or something like that where it's zero tax. But that being said, a lot of people don't want to go and live in some of these other places. And so the question quickly becomes, what can I do? And so today I'm going to talk about being deliberate about how you design your company in order for that company to enable you to pay much lower tax, okay? So we're going to dive into that right now. Before we do, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, all notifications. Really appreciate your support. Check out our other videos. If you'd like help with the subjects of international tax optimization, asset protection, residencies, citizenships, forming companies, opening bank accounts, etc., please reach out to me. You can book a call, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description below. Or send a message to our website, offshorecitizen.net, offshorecapitalist.com. Also links in the description below. And if you're on Twitter, go and follow me on Twitter too. Okay. So here's the thing. I've talked quite a few times, try to explain to people the basic models, and sometimes I experience frustration. I feel like for years and years, I've harped on the fact that there are certain common mistakes that people make, such as believing, hey, should I form a company in Dubai or should I form a company here? And it's like, often that's not really the defining factor, right? The defining factor in most cases, in most parts of the world, is dependent on the substance of your business, okay? The substance of your business really matters a lot. Not to say that where you form a company is not important, it is important, but if it's not accompanied by the appropriate substance, in most cases, it's not going to suffice, okay? So with that in mind, how do you build, if we were to consciously design the substance, what would we do? And this comes down to the common framework that I discuss with people, which is when we think about international tax, we have to ask who gets to tax what income, all right? Because clearly income is all over the world, and who decides? This is based on three things, and these three things are going to be the relevant factors that we're going to consider here. The first of these is the residency of the company. Now, in the residency of the company is sometimes based on where the company is registered. Most often, it's based on where the company is managed and controlled. What does this instantly tell you about designing a company in order to optimize for tax? Well, you should be thinking from early on about building some management function. Depending on the country that you're in, the definition can go based on day-to-day management or highest level of management. So basically director roles or senior management roles outside of your country. Now, a few things about this. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a zero tax country. However, putting those functions in some countries could trigger other tax. So you would want to be conscious about where you put those management functions, okay? And so you should be thinking from the beginning of it's kind of ironic that building a good company, a sustainable company, a company that sort of works without you kind of concept, it gives you more freedom in terms of location as well as time, also happens to be what happens to work out best from a tax standpoint, okay? So you should be thinking, hey, listen, how do I involve some people in senior decision making? And well, first of all, how do I hire people outside of the country? We'll get to that in a second. And how do I involve them in senior decision making? Because you can hire foreign fiduciaries, right? You can go and hire a firm in Jersey or Isle of Man. And you can pay some fiduciaries 20,000 pounds a year, or whatever the heck the number is that they're charging. And it's basically a wasted cost, right? Because for the most part, these people are not going to be experts on your business. You probably don't even want to hire them to learn to be experts on your business because they're just way more expensive. Maybe they're charging you 150 pounds an hour or something like that, far more than you could get somebody. They're not really somebody who's optimally suited for the type of business that you're in, etc. So you don't want that redundant cost. You want somebody who's going to add real value, and that person who's going to add real value also comes at a lower cost and also facilitates some sort of tax savings, okay? So you say, all right, great. I'm going to hire somebody in a foreign country who that person, and maybe multiple people, that person, I'm going to groom them from early on to be involved in decision-making processes, right? Very, very important. And they're going to really be involved in making those decisions, and I'm going to have a plan to transition them there. And I know that the countries that I'm hiring them in are not going to create tax consequences for me. And that's all a deeper conversation of like, how do you figure that out? But just for reference, most of the time, if they are not like you're the owner of the company, they're not an owner of the company, etc., the likelihood that they, as a function of their management, is going to arouse any sort of attraction, if you're paying them in the right way, that would result in some sort of taxation, is certainly a lot lower than your involvement triggering some sort of taxation. Okay, so that's worth noting. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, aside from the management and control of the company, you have to pay attention to the sources of the income. Now, as I've stressed to people many, many times, the common thing that people get wrong is they say, oh, hang on, I have customers in a country. Where the customers are is usually not that relevant. Where your offices are could be relevant. Where your employees are working could be relevant. Some other types of income will vary depending on the income and depending on the country. There are some weird situations. So let's assume that you're wanting to set this up. Well, you should probably be thinking, okay, how do I hire people and set up these business operations in places that and in ways that will not trigger taxes for my company? So this could mean, in some cases, contractual relationships versus employee relationships, right? To some extent, it could dictate where you're going to set up an office. To some extent, it could just be the fact that it needs to be in a low tax country or a no tax country, or something like that. And so you want to be thinking that way. Certain businesses are very, very difficult to optimize the tax for. Most of the time, I would say, when I talk to people, there's some sort of optimization that we can do. But if you own a mine, for example, in British Columbia, Canada, you're pretty much taxed in British Columbia, Canada. It's hard to do much in terms of optimizing that, because it's really clearly income that's sourced in Canada, right? We're in Canada mining, our people are there, we're sourcing these things there. Okay, maybe you have some sales operations abroad, maybe you can source some equipment abroad, maybe there's you can put some marketing and human resources functions outside the country, but it's going to be minimal, right? Whereas by contrast, if you have some sort of a services business and your service people can be outside of the high tax country, especially the country where the company is either formed or where you're located, those are the two places that you don't want to be typically. That's good. If you're selling some sort of products remotely, same sort of idea. If you're selling, maybe you have a software as a service platform, etc. Again, same concept. So very, very worth thinking about from that standpoint. Put your people abroad. Now you might say, hey, I'm a one-man show. I'm an affiliate marketer. I don't do this. Well, if you want to not pay tax or to pay the lowest legal amount of tax possible, then you're in a higher tax country, you're gonna need operations outside the country. Okay, this is one of the reasons when I play out, sometimes I'll contrast for people setting my company in, for instance, maybe you would compare Jersey with Romania, right? So, well, the cost of labor is a lot lower in Romania, so if I'm going to hire people, I have a better talent pool and I have lower costs versus hiring people in Jersey. So even though the taxes might be more favorable in Jersey, there's reasons to go with Romania. And so thinking about it from that standpoint, I think is really, really important, kind of planning the business accordingly. And you can do all kinds of things to get great people in these countries. You can, the wonderful thing is that multiple aims tend to work together, right? Running a business that's lower cost, running a business that requires less of your time, running a business that's location independent, running a business that has lower taxation. All of this stuff, these actually work together. So that's a really, really helpful way to go. The third set of rules that we have to pay attention to are controlled foreign companies rules, which are based on the residency of the shareholder. This really does have a key part which is related to the actual structure. And this is a way that a bunch of countries increasingly get you, okay, is that they have some concept. Now, it could be relevant to the repatriation of funds, okay? Often you have a participation exemption, you can bring that money back into the country. By the way, I have videos on all this, so if you want to go, what is a participation exemption? Go check out the video. If you want to know, what is source income all about, check that out. Corporate residency, check all those videos out. Anyway, so if this is the case, then I might say, all right, well, I don't I don't want to have those rules triggered. Maybe I can set up I can take advantage of a participation exemption, and that can allow me to eliminate or mostly eliminate corporate tax. This is a common thing, even for Americans, right? The biggest thing is we try to get the corporate tax down to 10.5%. However, if you're in the right situation, you may be able to get it down to, potentially much lower than that, depending on the country you're in. Or you may be able to defer perpetually, okay? And then only bring back the amount accordingly. Now, what does this mean from, again, your business and lifestyle design? Well, very often you're going to pay tax on any money that you take personally. So money that you're going to need for a local lifestyle is going to be taxable. And you just kind of have to be prepared for that. On the flip side, if you're traveling and you can, say, hey, listen, this is somehow related to business, then you can write off those expenses. You can finance a lot of your lifestyle abroad, and you can minimize the amount you have to take personally. And in this way, you can build some sort of a corporate structure that defers that tax. Again, doesn't eliminate it, but puts you in a position where down the road you're much better off. So anyway, that's the overall. I hope that helps. If you have questions about it, it is a complex subject, right? Like international tax optimization is not a simple subject. So I would encourage you to reach out to me, book a call, calendar.com/Michael-Rosmer, link in the description below. And yeah, if you, obviously some of this can take time, some of it can take planning, but the more you're willing to work towards it over time, the more freedom and flexibility you're going to give yourself. So just something to keep in mind. I would love to hear from you. Put it in the comments below. If you like the video, please share it with your friends. Give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, please tell me why. And follow me on Twitter if you get a chance. And I'm going to look forward to seeing you on the next video.